Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many people working in the trenches who are working so hard to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. And listen, no big speeches to get today, no big quotes to share. We're going to jump right into it. I'm excited today to have Nathan Barrett with us. He's the District 5 Supervisor. He's current board president for the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. He's someone that I have watched during his entire political career. In fact, we began chatting even before he ran for his first political office, and we've been in touch with each other back and forth over a long period of time. I think have developed a terrific relationship, and most recently learned that we're both former drummers, and that was a lot of fun to see. I think once a drummer, always a drummer. But anyway, welcome to the show, Nathan. It's a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, there's so many things to talk about, but I think probably the first place to start is for people who are listening to this show who may have forgotten what the Board of Supervisors does, or maybe they really never knew to begin with. Let's start with that. What does the Harrison County Board of Supervisors do? And then you're the board president. Talk about what that's all about.
So basically, the Board of Supervisors does the same thing the combination of a mayor and a council does in a municipality, and we do that in the unincorporated areas of the county. And we also have an interlocal agreement with the 5 municipalities in Harrison County where we assist and do things inside the city as well. As far as the role of the board president, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. We run the actual meeting, and we have 2 of those, sometimes 3 or 4 a month, but we have 2 regularly scheduled meetings a month on the first and second Monday of the month. Then you're also responsible for executing all the documents as far as contracts and resolutions and all plats for subdivisions and all of those type things.
Well, listen, it's a great time to be on the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. I say it's a great time to be there no matter when you're there, because there's always going to be a state of change. But so much of the land in Harrison County is outside of the city limits, and as you pointed out, you've got working agreements with each of the cities of Harrison County, and by the time this show airs, we'll be looking back on the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which was sort of the ultimate opportunity to redefine ourselves. And I got to watch closely as the Harrison County Board of Supervisors played such a critical role in that recovery effort. But we'll get into all that, the economic development side, the future, all of that before we get done here. But let's take a step back for just a second. You're a lifelong resident of coastal Mississippi. You live in Wool Market, in the Wool Market community with your wife, Dr. Wendy Barrett. You have 2 children. What inspired you to get into public service?
I get asked that a lot. And the thing that made me run for Biloxi City Council is I was unhappy with some of the things that I saw happening in my ward. And I came home one day and I told my wife I was going to run for office. And she told me I was crazy. But, I was very actively engaged in my community, helping with events. I coached. My wife taught at Wool Market Elementary for over 15 years. And so we knew everybody in the community. And then I had people in the community nudging me to run as well. So a few things happened, and I was unhappy with the way things were going and decided that I was going to put my name in the hat.
Well, what's interesting, looking back at your past, you have a unique career, and you're an entrepreneur. Tell people about what you do when you're not a Board of Supervisors member.
So I own a consulting company, and we do consulting for political campaigns as well as businesses. I'm involved with many of our statewide elected officials running their campaigns, handling their campaigns in the lower 15, 13 counties, depending on the client, as well as a lot of our local campaigns. We run a lot of the mayor's races and things of that nature, or involved in some level in a lot of those races.
Well, what's interesting about that, and I think it creates kind of, I wouldn't say competitive advantage, you can say that, but I think it creates a skill set for you that plays on a bunch of different levels. Number one, you have relationships with some really important statewide and other elected officials. That relationship is important, and they know you and they trust you, et cetera. You understand what it takes to get public policy across the finish line. You understand the very dynamic world we live in from a political perspective. You understand the role that social media plays, that media plays. You've really cut your teeth in that arena. So when you're talking about whatever it might be that the Board of Supervisors might be facing, whatever it is, you have this kind of broader perspective that understands how that issue fits in and maybe how to be successful with it. But that's a terrific skill set to have as a Board of Supervisor member, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. Relationships is a large part of getting the job done. Just being honest, having the right relationships. And that's one of the things I ran on when I was supervisor. And Harrison County financially is in a great place. However, a lot of money that goes to especially capital projects starts in either Washington or Jackson. And without that funding, you don't get a lot of those projects done. And having the right relationships to be able to start that conversation and then move that conversation into actual, getting your name on the list of something that might be included in appropriations, and then seeing that through the finish line to make sure it's in those final bills and getting that funding that everybody wants all across the state. You have 82 counties positioning themselves for the same monies. And so having those relationships is definitely a benefit in helping getting some of that funding.
I can see it so clearly. One of the things we're visiting with Nathan Barrett, who's the president of the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. One of the things I've always noticed about you is you are who you are. Okay, there's a sort of a quiet, calm demeanor about you. But if I were to go back and think about all the conversations we've had forever, you've always been willing to kind of say what's on your mind with me, and I respect that greatly as a publisher. And in this role that I have today, I've always respected being able to have open, honest communication with people. But you do have a calm demeanor about you. Is there something wound up on the inside we're not seeing? Or tell us about your approach.
Well, I get it from my father. My father is a very calm person. Growing up, I don't think I ever heard my dad raise his voice one time. And you learn by example, and I believe that to get results, there's multiple paths to take to get those results. But I believe that you and I are not always going to agree, or whoever you're in a conversation with we're not always going to agree on things. But I believe that there's multiple paths to take to get to a destination. And I think that for me, the best path to take is one of calmness and being a peacekeeper, a peacemaker. And while we may not always agree, I believe that we can have our differences and still get along and work together, regardless of who that is. And if you burn bridges over one thing, you end up burning bridges over that bridge for everything. And so I believe while it's okay to have disagreements and disagree on certain things, you move on. I played basketball growing up and for a large portion of my life. And you get on the court and you're ready to engage. I'm one of the most competitive people you'll ever meet. But when you step outside of those white lines on that court, you go eat lunch with that person. You're friends with that person that you were just battling against. And so I believe that, being calm, staying collective, not allowing your emotions to get the best of you is the best way long term to get positive results.
I can't agree more. I tell you, if I look back at my career as a publisher, whether it be here at the Sun Herald or over in Mobile or New Orleans, if there's one thing that kind of amazed me, it's that there are certain people who are willing to just burn a bridge over a single issue. I mean, it just, I've always been blown away about that, because the truth is there may be disagreement on this issue, but there may be massive agreement on the next. And we should never let an issue define our relationship. I mean, that's kind of dumb, especially if two people engage in this conversation are working to improve a community. At the end of the day, let's keep the communications open and positive. And while we may disagree on this one, we'll move on. Some of the most successful people that I have come in contact with understand that so clearly. And they understand this too, that it's a small world. It is a really, really small world. You burn this bridge now, like you said, you burn the bridge on this issue. You're burning the bridge for every issue that going forward. It's not smart. And I think that calmness matters. And I think that the fact that you're willing to do your homework, that you're running a business and have to be successful at your business, all that kind of carries over. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Supervisor Nathan Barrett. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. I'm so thrilled to have Nathan Barrett, who's District 5 supervisor for the Harrison County Board of Supervisors, the current board president. He's been on the board since early 2024. And just as a reminder, Dan Cuevas, who actually joined the Board of Supervisors about the same time Nathan did, he's from District 1. Rebecca Powers, District 2. Marlon Ladner, District 3. Marlon amazes me, man. Talking about a guy who stood the test of time. He is still swinging and still passionate about what he's doing. I could say the same about Kent Jones from District 5. And of course, Nathan Barrett is Ken Jones is District 4. And then Nathan Barrett is District 5. So as a board president, as you said, it may not be so sexy, but it is. You run the meetings and you keep things moving forward, and you bring the demeanor that we were talking about before we went to break to the table for each of those meetings. I try to watch them all on video. Don't get to every single one of them, but I watch most of them. And I love the decorum in those meetings and the amount of respect that happens. And you guys are really kind of focused. I mean, in fact, I think a good place to kind of kick off some more detailed discussions is you recently had the opportunity to do the State of the County address. And there's a lot in the pipeline from an economic development point of view. There's a lot going on. If you were to say the state of the affairs for Harrison County, or say of the state of affairs for Harrison County, it's really positive right now. But let's talk about how you've reflected about it at the State of the County address.
So while many counties and cities are struggling financially in the economic environment that we're in right now, Harrison County is flourishing. You know, we have millions of dollars in the bank. We have millions of dollars of investments that return to us every year. We spend less money than we bring in. And, you know, one of the things that we're extremely proud of, we were able last year to give our patrolmen on the Sheriff's Department a 37% raise. Which is the largest raise that they have ever had in the history of the department, which has resulted while nationwide people are struggling to fill law enforcement positions. We've had a 700% increase in staffing and in applications at the Sheriff's Department. And we're turning around and, you know, giving those, as well as some of our fire protection raises again this year, and we're in a position to do that. But and you know, we have lots of economic development going on. We highlighted.
Hey, let's do that. Hey, Nathan. We'll shift to economic development. I just want to say one quick thing. This move as it relates to the salary increases. I want to tie that to something. One of the reasons why you ran for the city council in Biloxi had to do with fire and police, first responders. You've always had a commitment to first responders. Where did that come from? It's just being a member of the community and wanting them to do well. Was there some personal connection? Talk about that.
My uncle was involved in law enforcement, but really, no connection personally to it. I know a lot of people in that field, and I'm very appreciative of what they do. It's not an easy job. And even when I was on the Biloxi City Council, when it come to budget time every year, a lot of times I disagreed with the method in which things were done, because I believe that as a public servant, the first things that you should take care of is the residents. That means public safety, police, fire departments fully funded, and your public works department fully funded. And we call that roads and bridges in the county. But, public works, as far as roads, ditches, drainage, all that type of stuff. And really, if you provide those things for the residents that you represent, good public safety, good roads, clean streets, all that type of stuff, everything else can be funded after that on the level that you're able to do that. But my belief is those three departments should be fully funded before you spend a penny of the taxpayers' money on anything else. And that's a philosophy that I've had since day one, and I will continue to have it. Everyone won't agree with me. But I believe that if you take care of those things and communicate with the residents, you're never going to have any issues out of them.
Yeah. So I congratulate the Board of Supervisors for really to have an over 700% increase in awareness or engagement in the law enforcement at the Harrison County Sheriff's Department. What a great story that is. And you're right. I mean, whether it's when I talked with Sean Tyndall, talking about the state level, or when I talk to specific police chief, the role of law enforcement is so changed. I mean, they got to be a little bit of a psychologist, a little bit of a lawyer. They have to be very careful. They have to always figure out how to talk something down and to avoid massive engagement that too often can be the case these days. It's a tough job, and the requirements are stronger than they've ever been before. So once they pass all the tests and get in there and get trained, they deserve the support of those who are responsible ultimately for funding their efforts. And you guys have done a really good job at that. Anyway, I interrupted you. You were moving forward with economic development.
So, we're in really good shape. We have had a lot of economic development in Harrison County. Buc-ee's, of course, came online this year. I know that's something that was in the pipeline for a while, and that's been a huge deal, and people love it. It's always full. And then working with our development commission, we have over $3 billion in the pipeline of stuff in that is potentially coming to the county, that which would bring 3,000 plus jobs. But I believe that while all that's great, I believe that we can do more and we can do better. I believe that the Mississippi Gulf Coast is an amazing place. I was born here. I was born in Jackson County, moved over here right after I graduated high school to Harrison County. And it's an amazing place. I never want to live anywhere else. But unfortunately, we have a lot of young people that are born here, raised here, and educated here, not just on the coast, but in Mississippi, that whenever they graduate college or get their trade that they're going to do, or whatever it is they choose to do, they end up moving away to places like Austin, Texas, Dallas, Nashville, Florida, Georgia. I actually looked it up, and it's about 6 states that the majority of the people from Mississippi move off to. Matter of fact, I just had a class reunion a few weeks ago, and it's astounding how many people do not live, not just on the coast anymore, but even in Mississippi that came in for that event. And I think that the goal, not just in Harrison County, but across the Mississippi Gulf Coast, I think that we can be the catalyst that ends brain drain in Mississippi. I think that we have the potential, unlike any other area in our state, just because of the broadness of what we bring to the table. While other areas, they have one thing to offer. We have everything to offer here along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And I think that with a collaborated effort with the leaders from across the coast, that we can bring the type of development, not just to say, hey, we brought this much money, but stuff that's really game changing, that future generations will benefit, for generations to come. And I think that that's really where we need to move as far as leaders in not just our community, but across the entire Gulf Coast, working together to bring game-changing economic development, which brings ultimately a quality of life that young people are looking for. And our brightest minds shouldn't be moving to other states. They should be staying here to, grasp that vision and help grow and make Mississippi Gulf Coast everything that it can be and should be.
So I think, as you know, because you've watched it closely, and I know that you ran on a notion of economic development and this notion of brain drain that you just talked about. I'm equally focused on it. See, I think that the Harrison County Development Commission, I have tremendous respect for the leadership of of that organization. I have tremendous respect for the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation. It's a unique approach, this public-private partnership, and the way they form that organization. And in some respects, I actually think it's a best practice, particularly here in coastal Mississippi. Then you got the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission, which it's got unique responsibilities as well. Each of them they run industrial parks, they run utilities. They do all those things that are important to economic development in each of their areas. But the thing that I've worked really hard to force, not necessarily force, but to encourage strongly a conversation about is some type of alliance, whether it be the 6 coast counties or the 3 coast counties, where we do work together on the big stuff. One of my biggest concerns, and people who are listening to the show know this, and we'll pick this up on the other side of the after this break, but is the fact that we've got a lot of eggs in the gaming and government baskets. Over 78,000 direct and indirect jobs focused in government and gaming. And we've really got to work harder to diversify our economy. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and what some of the possibilities might be. We will see you after this break with the president of the Harrison County Board of Supervisors, Nathan Barrett. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with Nathan Barrett, the president of the Board of Supervisors. It's been a terrific conversation, always is when I have the opportunity to chat with Nathan, and just a terrific leader. Anyway, when we went to break, though, we're talking about, one of my biggest concerns is that we're not diversified enough, and in order to get the big stuff like they've done in Savannah, like they've done in Northeast Mississippi, like they've done in the Florida Panhandle. We've got to think more regionally around that. And what my thought about that is not to do away with any of the economic development organizations that are already there. They're doing great work, but to structure some form of alliance that puts us all together, including not just the development or economic development organizations, but also the ports and the airports and all of these, tourism, all these entities that should be working together for the big stuff to find the big thing that's going to ultimately be the next thing. The way that John Harrison talked about it, he talked about Stennis being sort of a game-changing move. When Stennis Space Center, you think about our forefathers and the vision they used to create that buffer zone that enabled us to have the Space Center and the testing that happens there, et cetera. I still think going forward, some of the most dramatic possibilities still exist in the Space Center because it's there. It's in the buffer zone is a terrific benefit. You think about gaming, what it meant to coastal Mississippi, game changer. But then again, you start to think about you watch gaming revenue. You're starting to look a little challenged. You see what's happening in Las Vegas, big challenges there. You look at the proliferation of gaming across the country. Look at sports betting, how that's proliferating. Mississippi's currently losing as it relates to that. You look at in places like Alabama, where I came from. Alabama missed approving gaming in Alabama by just 1 vote this last legislative session. We've got to be aware that just because we have it today doesn't mean we're going to have it in the future. We got to be thinking about these kinds of things. Gaming, though, was transformative for us. Shipbuilding, when Ingalls Shipbuilding opened, transformative for us. We're an economic engine for Mississippi, still are. but what's the next thing in this age of advanced manufacturing, AI, with all the trade stuff that's happening? What's the next thing, the next big opportunity? Would coming together as a region around the big stuff, I'm not saying around everything, just around the big stuff, be a big opportunity for us? These are the kind of things that you're thinking about too, aren't they, Nathan?
Absolutely. And, speaking of alliances, I had a great conversation last week with a development alliance from Jackson County. And I agree with you that I think that to bring things that are game changers to the table, to get them to invest in South Mississippi, I believe it will take an effort beyond just one group. I think that, and you mentioned putting all your eggs in one basket, and the casinos have been great for us, especially City of Biloxi that has, I believe, 8 casinos, and over 1/3 of their annual budget comes from those casinos. But the reality is, all it takes is a big economic downturn, and you could lose over 1/3 of what you have coming in, and ultimately more than that, because they drive not just the gaming, but they drive sales tax as well. And so being diversified and bringing in quality development that you're not dependent upon one or two things, I think is very important. And I think not just development, but quality economic development, and going back, and it all ties in together, that's transformative, that makes people, especially our young people, want to stay here instead of leave whenever, because good quality economic development that has high paying jobs, let's just say, for instance, it's in Jackson County, one of these investments, but people from Harrison County are going to work there, and they're going to bring their money back here, and they're going to spend their money here, and they're going to buy homes, and they're going to buy cars. And ultimately that has a net plus on the economic impact in Harrison County, and vice versa, whether it's Hancock, Harrison, Jackson. I think, and I like to use this analogy because I've lived it. When I went on the Biloxi City Council in 2017, Howard Avenue was basically empty. And we took the approach as a council that we were going to do what it took to revitalize Howard Avenue. And we gave a lot of 100% abatements, but we were getting nothing from those properties anyway. So you continue to do the same, you continue to get nothing. And now you can drive down Howard Avenue and there's nothing available on Howard Avenue, maybe one or two storefronts at the most. It has completely, and that was 7-8 years ago, has completely just blown up. And it's like a domino effect. And I think that same concept applies. If you build something in Harrison County, I think that flows to the west to Hancock and to the east to Jackson County. I think if you have something positive, game-changing come to Jackson County, that flows to the west, and it has it's like a domino effect. It has a positive impact on all of us. And while, yes, we do want to see the most and the best come to Harrison County, but I think that, we all win when one of us wins.
One thing is for sure, in Harrison County, there's big land available. I mean, there's some tremendous amount of land available in Harrison County. So if we were talking about a gigasite like they did in Northwest Florida, or a mega site like they do in Northeast Mississippi, the land is available. But, if you bring the industrial chops of the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation to the table with leaders from Harrison County and Hancock County focused on something big, it will happen. It will happen, because you think about where we are. I'm sure this goes through your mind, but the Port of Pascagoula has tremendous growth potential, especially with the island there. So it's something, I'm going to come back with the director. We've had this conversation before on my show, but I'm going to circle back and talk even more about the upside. But if you just look at the energy sector, they're in the top 10 in the nation now in terms of ports. And then you look at the Port of Gulfport and what it's already bringing to the table, and the opportunities in the future if we were to deepen that channel. Where we are located in the United States, so centrally located with access to interstate and rail and all of that, there's just tremendous upside here. But it's going to require us to dream big, and it's going to require us to push hard. And you can't do that if we're not pushing together. So we've got to be all in. I love the way the director of the new organization just recently approved by the Mississippi legislature in the 4 counties around Oxford, Mississippi. The way he said it is that there's certain things that need to be done in a regional context because we're all going to benefit from it. And that's all I'm suggesting that we do. By the way, I had a great conversation recently with Tim Pierce, the new mayor of Long Beach. And he and I actually went to Southern Miss together, and we became very, very close friends. And his career, 41 years, Nathan, at Stennis, and more, in the latter part of his career, literally handling strategic planning for Stennis Space Center. And as I've talked with him more about the opportunities there, and then more, the leadership that exists there now, and how entrepreneurial they are, and all of that. I mean, it makes you super excited about the future and the role that Stennis plays. I talk about Stennis being one of the bookends. Incidentally, Nathan, it tends to be out of sight, out of mind. It benefits Pearl River County. It benefits Hancock County. It benefits over into Louisiana and all of coastal Mississippi. But it's easy to forget that that's sitting out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And but it is a great asset to the Mississippi, not just the Mississippi Gulf Coast, the entire region. It's a big deal. They have a lot going on out there. But, there's I don't know if you've ever looked at the Google map of that place. There's tons of land, and there's room for expansion of other stuff. And there's a lot of private stuff that, goes on out there as well. While it is a government site, there is a lot of private investment that happens out there as well.
Yeah, no, there really is. There really is. So anyway, yeah. So, not to bog down too much on the economic development stuff, we got less than 2 minutes in this segment, and we'll pick it up on the other side. But what were some other headlines from your State of the County address?
I covered a lot about our employees, things that are going on. We're doing a beach restoration. The entire Harrison County, a $50 million deal, $35 million of that's coming from, or 65% of that's coming from the federal government, from the Army Corps of Engineers. We're doing a $4 million outflow project right now, the entire length of the beach. We have a lot going on in Harrison County. I'd be remiss not to mention 3 things that I think are pillars for the county. Is our airport. I travel a lot, and while it's not the biggest, I think that the Gulfport Biloxi Airport is the cleanest and the nicest airport that I fly into some of these huge airports, and they're just in terrible shape. And that's a jewel, and continuing to grow that. Memorial Hospital is a great asset, one of the best hospitals in the region. And then the Mississippi Gulf Coast Coliseum, Matt and his team do a great job, and we're here to support them, to maintain and even expand in the future. We want to see that grow and us become not just competitive, but a leader in that entertainment industry.
Well, I contend it's time to implode our arena and build a new one. We'll talk about that on the other side. I also want to mention the airport. We'll come back after this with Nathan Barrett. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We have Nathan Barrett, who is the Board of Supervisors president for the Harrison County Board of Supervisors. We mentioned the airport. Listen, I love spending time with Clay Williams. He's been on my show countless times, as has members of his 3-member board of trustees, especially Dave Dennis. And what we've done there, from making the commitment to invest in the airport after Hurricane Katrina, to keep moving with their strategic plan and all the changes that happened there, building more parking capacity and all that. It's been terrific to watch that. I have tremendous respect for them. My wife and I just recently went to New York City to visit my son Justin, and we decided to fly to New York. Out of New Orleans, because we needed a direct flight. We needed to be there by a certain time. We didn't want to have to connect and whatever. We regret it, to be honest with you. We would have changed our plans in New York. But for anyone who's gone over to park in at the new airport, it's a nightmare, especially when the parking garages fill up there. You have to go park at the old airport. It's ridiculous the way they've got that set up. So what Ann did this past time is she actually paid in advance for us to have, reserve whatever. All that really allowed you to do is get into the parking garage when they shut it down. That's it. So we got there. It wasn't shut down. We went ahead and we tried to use a little thing they gave us to wave in. It didn't work. So we took a ticket. Since we took a ticket when we left, we paid $90 in advance. They would not let us out of that airport parking garage, Nathan, without paying again. They said that it's two different companies or something ridiculous. I said, that's not my problem. That's your problem. I paid in advance. Here's my proof. I paid $90 in advance. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have taken a ticket. What do you mean I shouldn't have taken a ticket? Oh, man, it was ridiculous, man. It was, we literally had to pay $88 for her to lift the thing so we could get out of there. And now we're still in an uproar with them. My point is, don't fly to New Orleans unless you absolutely have to. Fly out of Gulfport. Gulfport,
I agree.
You don't have these problems with Gulfport.
Yeah, it's so convenient. And look, by the time you take the hour and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, depending on traffic to get to New Orleans and park, and you pay to park, it's really the flights out of Gulfport. The actual flights are a little bit more affordable, they're more affordable out of New Orleans. But by the time you pay for parking and traveling, gas and the time and everything, it's just so much more convenient. And you're not going to find a cleaner, nicer airport anywhere. I've flown, especially this summer. I've flown a lot, and I've flown into New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, Denver. And Gulfport's the nicest of any of those airports. I've been through Atlanta and Charlotte on those flights, and Gulfport is just the cleanest and the nicest of any of them. Sure, it's not massive, but that just plays into the convenience of it.
Yeah, the options are great, though. Hey, incidentally, I flew into LaGuardia. Hadn't been to New York in a little bit of time, but I was flying in there once a month for 7 years. And, boy, what they've done with the new LaGuardia airport is, oh, man, they have turned the corner there finally from what they had before. But I'm a big believer in the Gulfport airport. And after this experience in New Orleans, I'm never flying out of New Orleans airport unless I absolutely have to. It was a terrible experience. And I bet I'm not the only one who has that feeling. I bet lots of people have that feeling. And it was not pleasant, to say the least. Hey, I mentioned we need to implode the Mississippi Coast Coliseum, but look, they have invested greatly in Mobile. And listen, this venue has served us well for a lot of years, and that transition from where we are now to what we need to build, it's going to be not easy. But it's time for us to start thinking that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Matt and I have had these conversations. For those that don't know, Matt's the director of the Coliseum. But we've had these conversations about, to the east, you had the Smoothie King Center, or to the west, we had the Smoothie King Center. To the east, they're building the one in Mobile. And then, Pensacola has everything they have. And so to stay competitive, Matt's looking at doing a study to see whether we refurbish, we update, what the study says, whether we have to build. And of course, we're talking at least hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know how many hundreds that equals. But for us to stay competitive in that market, and look, Matt gave me the numbers. Last year, 2024, was record-breaking for the Coliseum in every category: profits, the amount of room nights that was impacted, the guests, the amount of economic impact, everything was records. And so something has to be done for us to not just stay competitive, but we need to be a leader. It's Harrison County, and I know we're running out of time, but Harrison County is the fastest growing county in the state of Mississippi. Harrison County now, if you go online and look, they say that Hinds County has lost a ton of people. We're now the largest county in the state of Mississippi. And so we need to be a leader in these things. We don't need to be second. We don't need to be third. We need to be a leader. And so, and when we talk about building a new Coliseum, we're talking about we're talking about a regional as well as a state collaboration. because the type of money that it would take is going to take money from a lot of different pockets in order to do something like that. And so, I believe that it's a great asset, and it's something that we have to look at.
Well, Matt's a regular guest on the show. We've told the story of the Mississippi Coast Coliseum many, many times. That entrepreneurial effort is amazing what they've done. He'll be retiring soon, but the future will unfold, and hopefully it unfolds with it being a new facility before too long. Hey, it's been a pleasure, Nathan Barrett. Thanks for joining me.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.